Coming to you from the studios at Citygate in Evansville. This is This Week in Evansville. I'm Johnny Kincaid. Thanks for joining us. We're in that tight countdown now to the elections for city offices, and one of the candidates for mayor is with us right now. It's Michael Daugherty, who is the Libertarian candidate. Michael, thanks for making some time. I know at the last minute, this is when everything is happening right now.
13 days. Thanks for having me.
All right. So it's crunch time in the election. And I think that probably the first place that I want to go with this is just, first, this is your first run for office. So how's it been? I mean, what's the experience been like for you?
It's been eye-opening. I mean, you know things about your city that you believe are true, and then you dig deeper, you go into politics, and you find a lot of things that are unsettling. And so I entered this race to better my city and have discovered so many issues going on that makes me want to fight even harder for our town. And it's just so upsetting, the things that are happening that isn't out in the public eye.
And you are hearing comments like that from people on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Going door to door, you hear this, you hear that. And for them to say it is one thing, and then you do a little research, you do a little public records request to our city administration, and you find out it's true. You hear a lot of things, and you're like, okay, that could be a conspiracy theory. But when it's backed up by truth, it's concerning.
The politics side of it is really interesting this year because you have you've been shaking things up. As a libertarian, I firmly believe that you're going to grab a good share of votes here, that we're going to come down to a horse race when this whole thing is all said and done. And, because libertarians traditionally been 5 to 10%.
Yep, typical.
And here we've got somebody who is being viewed as a true contender through the whole process. Politics is never pretty, though.
No.
I've run for office a couple of times, and I had to make the promise to my wife I'll never do it again, because you go in with the intention that we're going to keep this high road. We're going to, we're going to avoid, any kind of mudslinging and so on down the line. And by the time that election day rolls around, everybody has jumped in and started rolling in the mud.
Yes.
Right? So that makes it really tough. So I commend you for jumping into this. I'm sure the politics part of it has just been really interesting to watch play out.
Yes, it has.
So on this show, I'm not going to ask you to critique or criticize or anything your opponents, because my goal is for people to get to know Michael better, right? But we can't avoid talking about the campaign finance side of things. The pre-election campaign finance reports just came out. I've had a chance to flip through a little bit, but I think that one of them, for one of the candidates, is 190 pages long or something to that effect.
It's extensive, yes. And it was found to be defective, so it wasn't filled out properly. Yeah, both candidates actually against me had defective CFA forms that were rejected by the county or the election office.
Now, so that everybody understands where the rules fall on this. The rule is that any contribution over $100, you have to itemize.
Yes.
On the form. Anything under $100 can all get grouped together as unitemized donations. And when I ran, almost everything was unitemized because I just got those little bitty donations. You took a vow, though, that you weren't going to take corporate funds and PACs.
I have not accepted any money from corporations, PACs, lobbyists, or influence peddlers at all.
Okay, so now here's where the difference is, just so you get a picture at home. Michael, for running for mayor, has spent right around $30,000.
Yes.
All right. Stephanie Terry has spent just about $250,000.
Yes.
Right. And Natalie Rasher has now spent about $800,000 on the campaign this year.
Very eye-opening.
Yeah, that's significant. I mean,
It's very sad, and unfortunate that this mayor race is bringing out this much money to be spent. And, and somebody asked me the other day, so what are your thoughts? Do you think politics are for sale in Evansville? I think the proof is in the financial statements.
I mean, we've seen $1 million mayor races before where both sides had raised somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000. We've seen that before here in Evansville. But this kind of, there's such a disparity there between the top funder. I expected that to be much closer, honestly. But for the job of mayor, that just sounds like a whole lot of money to spend.
Yes, it is. So with me not taking any of those donations, if I'm elected mayor, I'm entering office with 0 favors owed. That's my new hashtag. From people over politics to 0 favors owed.
Okay. So you have, I know you've been speaking everywhere you can speak.
Yes.
You talk to every group imaginable.
When I don't have $1 million, I've got to do old school boots to the ground. I've got to be frugal with my money, and I've got to work that much harder. Natalie spent $600,000 to Brabender Cox out of Leesburg, Virginia, to run her campaign. I don't have that amenity, so I have to do it all myself. Boots on the ground, door to door.
The firm that Michael speaks of in Virginia is actually one of the, among Republicans, one of the best known political consulting firms in the country, and they're expensive guys, obviously. But they've worked a lot of national campaigns and Senate campaigns and so on down the line. It's big business for them. On your side, going door to door, that is a very time consuming, very hard thing to do. But here's what I've found is that when you've talked, for example, to the Second Amendment group, and that group, very conservative, predominantly a Republican crowd. I know people from that group that are now out knocking on doors for me.
Yes, yes, I have a lot of people supporting me and behind me, and without them, I couldn't compete against $1 million campaign. But with all the volunteers and the people fighting every day that want the truth to come out about Evansville and want to have a mayor that is transparent and represents the citizens, they're fighting hard for me.
All right. Now, so let's talk about vision, all right? Because I've been a contender for some time now that what we've lacked in Evansville area politics has been people coming in with a real true vision for where we're going as a community. We're back now to, we're going to do another round of survey data to figure out what to do with our riverfront. That was supposed to be our showcase decades ago, and we don't take care of what we've got. So we're up for another round of that, unfortunately. But
I was told we paid the consulting company $4 million to do that first round of consulting on the riverfront.
And if I could get $4 million to consult, I would say to the city of Evansville, look at what Owensboro did, and do that, because Owensboro's done a wonderful job with their riverfront.
Yes, and that's why I went over and met with the mayor of Owensboro, Tom Watson, and asked him, what are you doing over here that we need to mimic?
And a lot it would be the answer to that. But 5 years from now, if we're looking down the road past your a first term for you as mayor, if you're in that seat, how do you visualize Evansville? Where do you see us, and what are the things that change between now and say 5 years from now?
So I would say after 4 years of my administration, we have a control on our finances and our financial spending. We have revitalized all our parks. We have resolved all the issues with our infrastructure deficiencies in our roads, our sidewalks. We have good elected officials in place, and we've partnered with citizens on boards and commissions. It took 3 to 4 years to build that. Now we start looking to the future and we say, what can we do with additional parks? What can we do with additional infrastructure? And hopefully by the end of the first term, in 3 to 4 years, we have a better Evansville. We have a better population, a more tax base, and a safer Evansville, because number one on my goal is a fully staffed police force. And so within my administration, that's what I would see after the first 3 to 4 years. Then we start visualizing in the future and see how do we spend those tax dollars more efficiently to grow Evansville, grow economically.
Growth is really a key thing here, because as a city, Evansville has been stagnant. Mm-hmm. Now, when you talk to county commissioners, they will point out the fact that Vandenberg County is actually
booming. Yes,
yeah, and it almost brings back that argument about Unigov, where nobody really wants to talk about that necessarily, but why is it that so many people are going to the county as opposed to within city limits for living?
It's governed better, plain and simple. The government is better in Vandenberg County. You see what they're doing with removing red tapes and restrictions for zoning, for building. You see what they're doing for the citizens of the county, and it's better out there because you don't have the restrictions that the city of Evansville does. You don't have the crime out in the county. You don't have the issues with the roads out in the county. So the government in our county has been so much head and shoulders above the city government for the last 12 years.
Okay. You brought up crime.
Yes.
Public safety has been, and public safety always just gets batted around in any city election. But we're really kind of in a position where I've looked at crime statistics for Evansville, and I go, nobody talks about these numbers, but holy cow.
Yes.
We have got and I know that you're talking about with murders, for example. Last year, I think it was 24 murders in the city of Evansville. And you talk about that as a number. 24 is still too many.
Yes.
But it doesn't sound like oh my gosh. You do it as a crime rate though, and you look at murders per 100,000, and all of a sudden we're above the national average in that.
Well above it.
Mm-hmm. And that happens in a lot of those crime statistics, where here in Little Evansville, we are leading the way in a way that we really don't want to, and nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, we have for those homicides or those murders, we don't even have a dedicated homicide department on our police force. That will change under my administration. And some of the statistics that I've shared is Evansville ranks 40th in the United States for violent crime per capita. Mm-hmm. That's ahead of Portland, Oregon. That's ahead of a lot of very dangerous cities. And again, it doesn't get talked about, especially in election years. I've brought out a lot of information at this year's election, and I hope the voters really see that, how transparent I'm being and bringing these issues to light. Otherwise, it would all be flowers and rainbows between the two opponents.
It's our violent crime rate for Evansville. Because when you talk to people about this, they say, "Oh yes, but we're still, rural communities will always show hardly anything for crime, and cities are going to show." But we're comparable to Indianapolis for violent crime rate.
Actually, we're worse than them on violent crime. Mm-hmm. I believe the number I showed, they were 42nd, we're 40th. So we're worse than Indianapolis on violent crime. Mm-hmm.
And on the actual rate, it's just a few points between the two. So it's an issue that, for me personally, I just think that the city needs to open their eyes and start looking
Absolutely.
at a whole lot more. And then you've also mentioned the financial side of things for the city. How do we fix that?
We fix it by stop spending money on frivolous projects. That's led by the mayor, and the mayor creating the budget. The voters vote in a fiscally conservative mayor, and we stop this ridiculous spending. We don't build anything new until we can afford to maintain what we have. That's what I said, and that's resonated with a lot of voters. It's resonated with a lot of people that have come on board. It's that simple. We stop spending money. If you don't have the money in your bank account, you don't go out and buy a $100,000 car. I'm sorry, you don't. Government expects you to be fiscally conservative and balance your bills, but they don't do that because it's not their money. It's your money, the taxpayers, and they don't care. They don't care how they get it. They don't care if they got to sell and lease 6 miles of streets for privatized to raise bonds. They don't care. They feel like we'll just tax more and we'll get more money.
And that has led us to about $1 billion in bond debt.
Yes.
That is that a hole that you can dig yourself out of? I mean, is that?
It will take time. Mm-hmm. It's not something that'll happen overnight, but you stop all of the infrastructure projects that aren't required. You actually say no to a project or two that, you know what, we can afford to build it right now, but in 5 years and 10 years, we can't afford to maintain it. We have to have a mayor that has the vision to look forward and say, what's the total cost of this project? Not just the cost to build it, the total project cost, including maintenance for 5 or 10 years. And then, are we going to put in a budget to replace it? That's the vision Evansville and you, the taxpayers, deserve.
Maintenance is a huge issue there. And for everything that you build, there has to be maintenance planned on it. Otherwise, it eventually starts to crumble, and that's what we're seeing now with our parks, right?
Yes, absolutely. Parks, it's been talked about in City Council. The City Council was dumbfounded when they said, why do we need $9 million for the Ford Center? Was this not seen that we needed to maintain things or have maintenance for concessions or what have you? It was a short-sighted view by both the mayor and the City Council.
And it's one of those things where, I mean, somebody just has to lead the charge on it, right?
Yes.
We can't afford to. I've walked through a couple of parks in recent months and gone, how did we get to this point? Places that were once a point of pride in the city are really starting to. There are problems with decay at Garvin Park.
My home park, Garvin Park. Yes.
I mean, we built a beautiful aquatic center, but around you get a little ways away from that aquatic center, and you start seeing the signs of neglect, and it just the
we'll see signs of neglect in the aquatic center 3 to 4 years down the road. Once it comes time that we have to do maintenance, you're going to see the neglect on that facility as well.
And I've seen pictures of the Greenway that have just been atrocious. Mm-hmm. So yeah, some things really. This election is about a whole lot more, I think, than previous elections have been for our city, because this is a turning point where we can either put on our big boy pants and start doing the things that need to be done for maintenance and so on down the line, or we can let it continue to crumble. And regardless of who wins this election, I would hope that somebody gets in there who listens to the voices. Missy Mosby, for again, there are plenty of places where I disagree with her, but she's one of those voices saying, we've got to take care of what we've got. Yes. And she's not just saying that; she goes out and tries to work that. There are people in both parties that can see that and see that need, and we just need to get them motivated and empowered and moving in the right
Absolutely.
direction.
Yeah, we have one city council member on the Democrat side and one on the Republican side that actually get it. They saw the vision. They voted no on multiple spending bills. Mm-hmm. So they get it. Yeah, they need somebody that's impartial, that's not going to follow the political party to lead Evansville forward.
And do you see the mayor? I look at candidates' websites. I listen to their words. I understand things that they're saying about consensus building and everything, right? And we should all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. But does that really work?
No, and and one of my opponents was like, we need to, you catch more flies with honey in regards to Centerpoint, and we shouldn't stomp our feet. Well, no, I'm not going to stomp my feet, but I'm going to hold businesses accountable that either receive our taxpayer money or we're paying to do things. It's about accountability, and sometimes you have to be stern and you have to negotiate. And I feel I'm the best candidate in that position.
What you mentioned Centerpoint. That's a huge issue because so many people are having trouble with their utility bills right now.
Yes.
What do we do with Centerpoint?
So I was the only candidate to oppose Centerpoint's rate increases. I'm the only candidate that showed up at the IURC public hearing, and at the SWRCA candidate forum, both of my opponents were like, we need to partner with Centerpoint. We need to play nice. And that's where the flies with honey comment came from. And then the financial reports come out. I had my theories. Both candidates, both of my opponents, have accepted money in their campaigns from Centerpoint Energy. One getting money from the CFO and CEO. So there's the underlying reason on, why they want to partner with Centerpoint, and they don't want to stand up to them and stand up for the citizens of Evansville. So we've got multiple things you can do. They've pointed out the mayor does not set the rates. That goes through the IURC. That's why they had the public hearings. But if you're just going to give them a free pass and not even go to the hearings, not talk to anybody, not oppose the rate increases on our citizens, on our fixed income or citizens in poverty, that's a huge red flag. And they want to paint these pictures of rainbows and flowers and say, let's work together, like you said, kumbaya. But they don't want to stand up to people that are taking advantage of our citizens. They want to build $477 million of infrastructure on the pocketbooks of the tax-paying citizens. That's what I stood up against. Whether we continue that fight at the state level, I will stand up. I will be the only candidate that will stand up, as you've seen, for the citizens of Evansville.
So, kind of chasing that a little bit further here, and maybe my perception is wrong, but I think that we've had a mayor in office who has been a great cheerleader for our community. I mean, for any of the downside to Mayor Winnecke's administration.
Mayor Winnecke's been an amazing public relations.
80-hour weeks. I mean, this guy is just at everything, and but by the same token, and I know he's worked tirelessly behind the scenes on a lot of things as well. So there are a lot of pluses there. But you mentioned the hearings dealing with Centerpoint and things like that. I would think that, so your mayor is not just your CEO, he's the face of your community.
And the voice of our citizens.
Right. Not just for the fluffy stuff, but for the hard things, including sometimes I'm a believer that the mayor sometimes has to stick his nose in where it's not necessarily expected or welcomed. You know?
You have to deal with those uncomfortable situations. And you have to do what's right. And that's what I hope the voters see. They look at the three mayoral candidates and see who is fighting side by side down in the trenches with the citizens, even if it's uncomfortable. And that's what you have to do to protect the citizens that you represent.
So how about in education? What's the mayor's role there, do you think?
Right now, there's been no role for the mayor and EVSC. The Department of Education controls everything separate from the city, but the mayor has to lead by example and partner with EVSC, even if it's as simple as creating a basic communication channel and say, you know what, I'm going to sit at the board meetings and just listen, take it in. I'm going to take an interest in EVSC and speak with the superintendent. How can I help you? How can how can I partner with you to help move Evansville forward? Because the first thing people ask when they come to Evansville, what's the best school for my child, whether it's academics or sports or something else. But that's the first thing that's asked. Then you talk about crime. Then, the housing. You go through those factors. Education's number one for people with kids. So there has to be good communication, and I haven't seen that.
There's not a lot that a mayor can do necessarily about test scores and
Right.
and meeting state standards and those kinds of things. It's more of to give you an example. When under the Weinzampel administration, they had what was called the School Community Council, and it was just interested parties from within the community. Might have been somebody with a company, could have been somebody from a nonprofit. There was always somebody representing city government, and of course the school, and it was their way of talking about how does the community and the city partner with the schools in order to get things done.
Yes, educational roundtable. Yeah, that you've got to build that relationship, build that partnership, even if it's one-sided at the beginning. And I don't know if Mayor Winnicky actually went to the school board and said, "Hey, let's do this," and they were not agreeing with that. I don't have knowledge of that, but if I went to their board meetings and even if they were like, no, not at this time, I would still be engaged and find information out, because at some point they're going to take note. Oh, the mayor's been at 12 straight board meetings and we haven't even given him the time of day. That's how you build that relationship. You work together, even if it's not perfect at the beginning.
It's that whole thing of people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay, great. The pay raise. That's been another one of the issues that's
Yes.
come up. The council kind of passed across the board pay increases for city officials. The thing I will say up front is I don't believe that the salary where it has been for mayor is adequate. It's it's a livable salary, but as far as
$100,000 a year, yeah.
yes, but as far as attracting people to that position, right? To take somebody who's in your position with some business success behind them and everything, and have them ponder a run for mayor, and the two things is it worth all of the stuff that comes along with campaigning and the fundraising and so on, and two, is it worth my time because of what it pays? So I agree that should go up, but
at 35%, 35,000 in 1 year, where city employees are only getting 1%, I stood up against that, and I stood up against the roughly 50% increase for our city clerk. And all three candidates knew what the salary was when we put our hat in the ring. But instead of putting all that money up right now and raising these rates, last year it was department heads up to 28.33% raises. Do that slowly over the next few years. The mayor's going to be in there for 4 years, so let's plan a 5 to 7% increase and put some of that money into the city employees. And I was the only one that opposed the raise at city council, and I've been the only one that has publicly stated that I am going to donate my salary to either shortcomings or nonprofits in our community. That's how much I care about moving Evansville forward. I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for a stepping stone. I'm in it to help my hometown.
All right, I'm going to throw one of the questions at you that just kind of popped in my head, and so pardon this coming out of left field possibly here, but we've talked about the crime statistics and about the need to invest into our public safety departments, city police and fire, both.
Yes,
need an investment.
And dispatch.
There.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but have you had a chance to look at any cities that have had a success story to tell about recruiting new officers onto their police force, quality officers onto their police force, since all of this has been going on?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, the Vanderbilt County Sheriff's Office. They have implemented the raises. They're getting good quality applicants in there. The other city that I know, and I know the the police chief there is Lafayette, Indiana. I'm where I lived for several years, and I've spoken with the police chief as well as the mayor up there, and they are doing things right. They also did just build a brand new public safety building, police and safety. So they are doing things right. They're a little bit smaller than us, but still are spending money wisely. So yeah, and in addition, talking with Tom Watson and seeing how they're doing things over in Owensboro. I have spoken to those different agencies, and I think I have a good game plan on moving Evansville forward and resolving these issues.
Okay. Well, this has been very informative, very helpful. Is there anything that you want people to know about you before they go to the polls?
Again, a vote for me is a vote for you. And just look at what I've done with this small budget that I've had, $30,000. And you see my signs everywhere. And that's what hard work does. And I'm going to work hard for you, the residents. And I would ask you to look at the mudslinging that's happening. And I don't blame the Republican Party for bringing out mudslinging yesterday, because if I spent $1 million on my campaign and I was losing, I would probably throw the kitchen sink at somebody too. So read through everything, look at all the details, because facts matter. And that's what I share as facts. And I would appreciate your support on November 7th.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate your time, especially, again, getting this close to elections. What I do want people to know is that we've extended the invitation to the 3 mayoral candidates. We've heard from Natalie Rasher, so we've got an episode with her, and we're still working on trying to get something scheduled with Stephanie Terry. The door to that is always open. Here's the thing. We're going to drop these very close together. So it's going to be like, boom, boom, boom.
You don't wait 14 days?
No, let's release on election day. There's a great idea. No, but we're gonna, it'll be one day, one the next, and one the next. And the reason for that is because we want you to take the time to watch, get to know the candidates, and know before you go in to the voting booth. And I know some people have already done that with their early voting. Be sure to subscribe so that you know when new episodes drop. I know we're a little bit irregular with our schedule on that, but if you subscribe, then you won't miss out on an upcoming episode whatsoever. Like us, comment on this. Let us know that you're watching and what you think of what you're hearing on This Week in Evansville. And then again, check us out on another episode in the future. I'm Johnny Kincaid. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Evansville.